nice to see you for story time, even if it's not morning where you are. Anyway, we're glad you came. I'm going to read a brand new book today. The title of this book is Milo Imagines the World. It's by Matt de la Pena, and it's illustrated by Christian Robinson, who's one of our very favorite illustrators in the world. Christian came to visit us in Bozeman a couple years ago, and he went to some of the schools, and he came to the library, and this is his newest book with Matt de la Pena, and you may know his other book called Last Stop on Market Street. This won the Newbery Medal. That's what that medal right there is. And this is also by Matt de la Pena and Christian Robinson, and this is a book about a little boy and his grandmother who take the bus. And in this book, his new one called Milo Imagines the World, Milo takes the subway. So he must live in a big city like New York or Los Angeles, or I don't know. Los Angeles doesn't have a subway. So Boston or Chicago, some other city that has a subway. And he's going on the subway with his sister. We don't know till the end where he's going, so you can be thinking about that. In this story, Milo talks about he's kind of got butterflies in his stomach, and he calls it being like a shook-up soda. So if you imagine you've got like a can of Coca-Cola or sparkling water or something that's fizzy and it's shook up, that's kind of how his tummy feels. So he's feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious. So I'm going to read this story to you, and I can't wait to share it with you, and you'll get to see the pictures as I read. Milo Imagines the World. And we'd like to thank Putnam for allowing us to read this book during story time today. What begins as a slow, distant glow grows and grows into a tired train that clatters down the tracks. A cool rush of wind quiets into a screech of steel, and when the doors slide open, Milo slips aboard. The train bucks back into motion as he and his sister squeeze onto bench seats. The whiskered man beside Milo has a face of concentration. A businessman has a blank, lonely face. The wedding-dressed woman near the far door has a face made out of light, while the dog peeking out of her handbag has no face at all, just a long, lolling tongue. These monthly Sunday subway rides are never ending, and as usual, Milo is a shook-up soda. So he's going somewhere that he only goes once a month on a Sunday. Excitement stacked on top of worry, on top of confusion, on top of love. To keep himself from bursting, he studies the faces around him, and he makes pictures of their lives. So you see he's got a pen, pencil, and drawing pad. So he's drawing as he's riding on the subway. At a downtown local shop, the whiskered man folds up his crossword and hurries off the train. Milo imagines him trudging through brown mounds of slush. It's a 5-flight climb to his cluttered apartment, where he's greeted by mewling cats and burrowing rats. Parakeets tweet songs of longing as the man sips tepid soup hunched over a game of solitaire. Late that night, the door to the parakeet cage mysteriously falls open, and the cats gather on the cold sill to watch the birds fly free above the city. So Milo's making a story out of his drawing. Do you see that? Milo tugs his sister's sleeve and holds up the picture, but even when she turns to look, he can tell she doesn't see. She's a shook-up soda, too. A boy in a suit boards the train with his dad. His hair is a perfect part, and there's not a single scuff on his bright white Nikes. So Milo imagines the clop, clop, clop of a horse-drawn carriage that will carry him to his castle. He imagines the clink, clink, clink of the guards slowly lowering the drawbridge. And across the human-made moat, the boy is met by a butler, 2 maids, and a gourmet chef offering crust-free sandwich squares. Milo flips to a fresh page at a bustling midtown stop. When the wedding-dressed woman strides off the train, a band of street performers launches into "Here Comes the Bride," and everyone on the platform stops and cheers. Milo imagines the grand cathedral ceremony where the couple will be pronounced husband and wife. And then he imagines the groom whisking his new bride to an awaiting hot air balloon where the pilot loads them in with blankets and blasts the heat. And up, up they go, hand in hand, beyond the concrete walls of the city into the infinite blue. Do you think that really happened? He's good at imagining, isn't he, Milo? Milo holds up this picture too, but his sister shoos him away. Can't you see I'm playing my game? He watches her thumbs bang around on her smudged screen, and then he turns back to the boy in the suit. They lock eyes for a few long seconds, and suddenly it feels like the walls are closing in around Milo. The spell is broken when a crew of break dancers bound onto the train announcing, "You all ready for a show?" Several curious faces look up as the beat drops and the girls are walking up the walls and they're whirling around poles and they're backflipping over shopping bags. So these are dancers, street dancers. They're also called break dancers or breakers. When the train pulls into the next stop, they collect a few dollars and they scramble for another car. Milo imagines them going from train to train, doing their act as everyone watches. But even after the performances are over, faces still follow their every move. When they walk down the electronics aisle at the department store, when they cross into a fancy neighborhood. Milo doesn't really like this picture. So he puts away his drawing pad and he turns to see his reflection in the window. What do people imagine about his face? Can they see him reciting his volcano poem in class? Can they hear his mom's soothing voice reading him a bedtime book over the phone? Can they smell the chili bubbling in a pot in his auntie's apartment near the cemetery? Butterflies flood Milo's stomach when it's finally their stop. He follows his sister onto the cold station platform and up the stairs. Above ground, he's surprised to see the boy in the suit a few paces ahead. We don't know where they're going yet, do we? We'll soon find out. Let's see. He's even more surprised when the boy joins the long line to pass through the metal detector. Have you ever had to go through a metal detector? Maybe if you've gone on an airplane. Milo's sister suddenly bends to give him a hug. "I didn't mean to snap at you," she says. She takes his hand, adding, "You have your picture ready?" He nods, feeling the warmth of her fingers. As they slowly shuffle forward, Milo studies the boy in the suit, his dad rubbing his thin shoulders. And a thought occurs to him. Maybe you can't really know anyone just by looking at their face. Milo tries to reimagine imagine all the pictures he made on the train. Like maybe he could have done it like this instead. So do you see how he's changed the pictures? Where that man goes home and he's got a whole family. Or there's another kind of wedding. Or all the break dancers live together. Milo's chest fills with excitement when he spots his mom through the crowd. His sister rushes to give her a hug before pulling Milo in too. And it's in this tight tangle of familiar arms that he feels most alive. When they separate, Milo flips through his pad until he finds the right picture. "I made this for you," he said, holding it up, and he watches for the smile he hopes will spread across his mom's face. And there's the picture. If you have a grown-up with you close by, you might want to talk about, where do you think Milo is? Where did he have to go visit his mom? And look at this lovely picture that he's imagining them all sitting on the front steps, eating ice cream. That's the end of the story. Milo Imagines the World. We have this book here at the library. If you need to check it out, or you can go buy it at Country Bookshelf. It's a lovely book. I think it's one you want to read over and over again. And draw. It'd be fun to have a book that says, your name imagines the world. Mine would be Cindy Imagines the World. And I could draw some of the things I see, maybe sitting in my office and looking out the window, some of the things I imagine about the people that are walking by. Milo Imagines the World. Today is Dr. Seuss's birthday, March 2nd. Dr. Seuss died many years ago, but we still like to sometimes celebrate his birthday. And if we were doing programs at the library, we might have a Dr. Seuss party. But I wanted to read one Dr. Seuss book today in honor of his birthday. And this is one of my favorite ones called The Sneetches. And if you have any sticky stars around your house, you might want to put a star on your belly at some point during this book. The Sneetches and Other Stories. And I'll just read The Sneetches today. There they are. Now, the star-bellied Sneetches had bellies with stars, and the plain-belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big. They were really so small, you might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag, "We're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches." With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they would snort. "We'll have nothing to do with the plain belly sort." And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star-bellied children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You could only play if your bellies had stars, and the plain-bellied children had none upon theirs. When the star-bellied Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, can you tell what those are? Frankfurter is a long word for hot dog. It's a good word, Frankfurter. Or picnics or parties or marshmallow toasts. They never invited the plain-belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. Then one day, it seems, while the plain-belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. My friends, he announced in a voice clear and keen, my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles. I hear you're unhappy, but I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed. My work is 100% guaranteed. And then quickly, Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine. And he said, you want stars like a starbelly sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Can you hold 3 fingers up? $3. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard. So they clambered inside, and the big machine roared, and it clonked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped them about. But the thing really worked. When the plain belly sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. And then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start. Oh, we're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now. Snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your Frankfurter parties. Oh, good grief, groaned the ones who had stars at the first. We're still the best sneetches, and they are the worst. But now, how in the world will we know, they all frowned, if which kind is what, or the other way around? Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, things are not quite as bad as you think, so you don't know who's who. That is perfectly true. But come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 eaches. So now instead of 3, remember you held up 3 fingers? Can you hold up all 10 fingers? That's how much it's going to cost for the sneetches to take their stars off. Belly stars are no longer in style, said McBean. What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars, so you won't look like the sneetches who have them upon theirs. And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Now, with snoots in the air, they paraded about, they opened their beaks, and they let out a shout. We know who is who, now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of sneetches are sneetches without. Oh, then, of course, those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. And then, of course, from then on, as you can probably guess, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of that day, on those wild, screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machines they raced round and about again. Changing their stars every minute or two, they kept paying money. They kept running through until neither the plane nor the starbellies knew whether this one was that one or that one was this one or which one was what one or what one was who. Phew! Then, when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up, and he went. And he laughed as he drove in his car up the beach. They never will learn. Nope. You can't teach a sneetch. But McBean was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the sneetches got really quite smart on that day. That day, they decided that sneetches are sneetches, and no kind of sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day, all the sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon theirs. Dr. Seuss found a really lovely way to talk about we're all the same. Everybody's included in this lovely human world of ours. So thank you, parents, for all you do in terms of reading books to your children, and especially books that have some of these wonderful lessons in them that are delivered in a very, very artistic and lovely way. So if you have any questions about what's going on at the library, please give us a call, check online, come get some books from us. We love making book bundles for you and your family, so please let us know. Thanks for visiting today. My name is Cindy. I work at the Bozeman Public Library. Bye-bye.